Okay, so you know how we all think we know the story of Adam and Eve? Well, get ready to hear it from Adam himself, at least a fictionalized version of him.
Right.
We're diving into this book, Adam's Confession.
Oh,
And
cool.
let me tell you, it takes us on a journey.
Yeah, I bet. It's like, what if Adam never stopped blaming himself for the fall? What if he was never able to kind of like find hope? Heavy stuff.
Definitely. And, you know, we always hear about the fall, but this confession really gives us a look into what might have been going on inside Adam's head.
Yeah, and I think that's something we often miss, right? We reduce the fall to just the simple act of disobedience, but this book explores all the emotions, the spiritual wrestling that Adam goes through. It's fascinating.
It really is. Especially how he describes creation, his relationship with Eve. There's this raw beauty to his words, almost poetic.
It's like you're right there in the garden with him.
Exactly. But then the temptation comes in, and he doesn't try to hide his own hesitation. He knew what he was doing was wrong, but he still did it. What do you think was going through his mind in that moment?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like we all know that feeling. When you know something's wrong, but you're still drawn to it, it's human nature, I guess. Even in a perfect state like Adam and Eve were in, there's still that capacity for making the wrong choice.
It's so relatable, though, right? Even today.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's this one line that really got me. Maybe I wanted to see what she saw. Something more. Some things that wasn't there. A hidden promise of being like God himself. It's like he was searching for something outside of what God had planned, even if he didn't fully get it at the time.
It's that age-old desire for more, isn't it? That hunger for knowledge, for experiences, even if they're off limits. Some would even say that's part of what makes us human, that desire to know.
Yeah, that's true.
But where do we draw the line? When does seeking understanding become like crossing a boundary? That's a tough one.
Makes you think. There have definitely been times in my own life when I've been tempted to kind of, step over the line,
Oh, yeah, for sure. Me too.
whether it's out of curiosity or just wanting something that I know isn't good for me. It's a struggle.
Absolutely. Knowing where those boundaries are, it's a constant back and forth.
Yeah. And what I find so interesting is that Adam, he could have just stayed silent. He could have blamed Eve, but he owns up to his choice.
Exactly. And that's huge. That's something we can all learn from, right? It's so easy to want to deflect or make excuses when we mess up.
Oh, yeah, big time.
But real growth, real healing, I think it starts when we can look at ourselves and say, okay, I messed up.
Yeah, I messed up. And, we talk about confession, but it's easy to think of it as just some religious thing.
Right.
But when you really think about it, especially in light of Adam's confession, it takes on a whole new meaning.
Mm.
Why is it so powerful to just admit when we're wrong?
It's like letting go of a weight you've been carrying around, that burden of guilt. Addie's confession, it reminds us that we don't have to carry that alone. There's freedom in admitting our shortcomings, in letting ourselves be seen, flaws and all.
That's so true.
And it's in those moments when we're vulnerable that we open ourselves up to grace, to healing.
It's interesting, though, right? Because he does try to shift the blame at first. The woman you gave me, it's like this very human reaction.
Totally. We all do it.
But then he comes around and takes responsibility.
Right.
What do you think that process was like for him? What was he going through in his mind?
That journey from wanting to blame someone else to actually owning up to your part in it, it's something I think a lot of us can relate to.
It's so human, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where this confession gets really interesting to me. Because the second part isn't just about him admitting he messed up. It's about what comes after that. It's about hope.
You're right. It's like he's saying, yeah, I really screwed up, but that's not the end of the story.
Exactly. There's so much more to it. And it's amazing how he doesn't shy away from what happened because of his choice.
Yeah.
All the pain, the suffering that came into the world, he owns it.
It's true. He even says at one point, pain, toil, death, all of it flowed from my choice. Heavy stuff.
It's like he understands the weight of what he did.
Yeah. And it would have been so easy to just fall apart, wouldn't it? To just wallow in despair. But he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. It's almost like he's saying, okay, I messed up. Learn from me. Don't make the same mistake.
Exactly. Like, don't let my failure be yours.
Right. It's such a powerful reminder that we all make mistakes. Our choices have consequences, but they don't have to define us. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. There's always a way back. A path to healing, to redemption.
Totally. But and maybe this is just me, but he doesn't exactly let us off the hook either, right?
Oh, for sure not. He's not giving anyone a free pass here. He's very clear about that. He says we still have a choice to make.
Right, right.
I think the way he puts it is, don't blame me if you don't make it. You have Jesus. You have the way to eternal life.
Wow.
Powerful stuff.
It's like he's saying, look, I made my choice. Now you have the freedom to make yours.
Exactly. And you have everything you need to make the right one.
And it really makes you think, doesn't it, about the choices we make and how they affect not just us, but everyone around us. I mean, imagine carrying the weight of knowing your choices impacted all of humanity.
It's almost too much to comprehend. And yet, there's this sense of peace in his words, isn't there? Like, even though he messed up so badly, he finds solace in pointing others toward a solution. He found hope and wants to share it.
That's such a good point. It's not just about his failure, it's about what comes after. And that's what I think we often miss when we talk about the fall. We get so caught up in the consequences that we forget there's so much more to the story.
Yeah, there's a whole other side to it, isn't there?
Right. It's about second chances, about forgiveness, about a love that never gives up on us no matter what we do.
It's about grace. And I think that's what makes this confession so powerful. It reminds us that God is always there, even when we mess up. He doesn't abandon us in our mistakes. He offers us a way back to him, always.
It's like that saying, God is close to the brokenhearted.
Yeah, and that's what I love about looking at this story, this confession, through this lens. It's not just some ancient myth that's irrelevant to our lives. It's about humanity, about our capacity for both good and bad. And ultimately, I think it's about hope.
And that's something we can all relate to. It really makes you think, you know?
Yeah.
Like if Adam could see the state of the world today, what would he think?
Oh man, that's a good question. What do you think?
Part of me thinks he'd be devastated. Seeing how much pain and suffering is still out there, how we keep making the same mistakes he did.
Right, like, come on, guys, haven't you learned anything?
Exactly. But then there's this other part of me that thinks he'd also be amazed by how far we've come. The love, the kindness, all the good that's still in the world.
Totally. I mean, the world can be a pretty amazing place. It's like this mix of light and darkness, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It always comes back to that, doesn't it? Choosing to focus on the light, even when things are tough.
Absolutely. And I think that's what Adam's confession really highlights. We can't change the past, but we can learn from it. We have the power to make choices that bring more light into the world.
I love that. It's not about being perfect. It's about striving for something better, about recognizing that we all mess up. We all have those moments of weakness, but we don't have to let them define us.
Well said. I think Adam would be proud of us, you know? Maybe even a little hopeful.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
So, to our listener out there, as you go about your day, maybe give this some thought. What would you ask Adam if you had the chance? How would you share your story with him? How has his story impacted yours? That's something to think about. Anyway, until next time, keep asking those tough questions, keep searching for those glimmers of hope, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Always a good conversation. Take care.